Welcome back to the Path to Peace Therapy podcast. I'm Stephanie Buckley, a parenting strategist, family systems coach, and an AMFT solution-focused therapist specializing in ADHD, anxiety, executive functioning, and family dynamics. This podcast is where we slow things down, look underneath behavior, and give you practical, brain-based tools you can actually use in your home. And today, we're talking again about chores, but not in the way you've probably heard before. Have another episode titled Chores, Chores, Chores. I will have the link for that episode in my show notes for you to click on and listen to that episode as well. Because chores are not about obedience. They're not about being helpful, and they're definitely not about getting kids to listen. They are about building your child's brain, one task, one chore, one rung at a time. Are you tired of repeating yourself? Does it feel like Groundhog Day every single morning with the same questions, the same chaos, and the same scramble out the door? Are you constantly hearing, "Where is my soccer uniform? Why can't I find my water bottle? Did you wash my favorite hoodie? I don't know where my shoes are. What am I supposed to bring to school today? I'm hungry, but I don't know what to eat. Can you help me? I can't find anything." And you're standing there thinking, how is this happening again? If that's you, stay with me, because after this episode, my hope is that you're going to want to run to the nearest chore chart and start building a family system that brings calm instead of chaos. Because when structure is in place, mornings become calmer. After-school transitions feel smoother. Pickup is less frantic. Bedtime routines are streamlined. And at some point, you'll probably say to yourself, why didn't I do this earlier? From meltdowns to connection, taking back your peace. If you are beside yourself with meltdowns and exhaustion, please know this. You can take back your life, your peace, and your family. In the beginning, implementing a new system requires a bit more effort. You may even encounter resistance. Let's be honest, your family might fight these new boundaries, because on the surface, the old way worked for them. But remember, it wasn't working for you. And if it wasn't working for you, it wasn't truly healthy for them either. Change is often scary, and resistance is usually just fear in disguise. In those moments of pushback, take a breath and remind yourself why you are choosing this path. I know this journey because I've walked it. Many years ago, my own family reached this same crossroad, and I made these exact changes. Since then, I have partnered with countless other families to help them rewire their own systems. The results are remarkable. I have watched homes filled with tantrums, slamming doors, and tears be transformed into environments defined by laughter, joy, and genuine connection. Chores are about to become your best friend. Not because they make your child or children you own personal assistant, but because they build their brain systems, which in turn reduces the chaos, creates much-needed structure, routine, predictability, independence, and a cohesive family system. Making their bed, taking out the trash, feeding the dogs, feeding the cat, picking up the smelly, yucky dog poop, taking the dog for a walk, setting the table, sorting laundry, folding laundry, putting laundry away, filling their own water bottles, grabbing their own snacks, packing their own lunch boxes, even thinking ahead, what snack they want after school, what goes in the car snack, what goes in that special pocket of the backpack before the bus ride home. This isn't about being strict. It's about teaching their brain how to think to the end of the day, which is that much needed scaffolding for thinking things through, which reduces impulsivity. Just in case you're not on board yet, and you're thinking, there's no way that chores can do this for a family. Let me give you the bookcase analogy and why frustration makes sense. I want you to think about a time when you felt frustrated. Imagine you ordered a bookcase. You remember the picture. You know what it's supposed to look like. But when it arrives, it's in a plain brown box. No picture, no instructions, just a pile of wooden boards and screws. And now you're expected to put it together. Would you be able to do it without frustration? Or are you suddenly sitting right in that gap between not knowing and knowing how? Is your heart racing? Have you suddenly become so hot that you need to remove that extra sweatshirt or sweater that you're wearing? Are you so overwhelmed? You need to go sit down. That gap, that feeling, is exactly where our children live far more often than we realize. Frustration is a gap in skill, not a character flaw. We often assume that because our children are around us while we're doing things, they automatically know how to do them. But watching is not learning. Children don't build executive functioning through observation alone. They build it through doing, repetition, and supported practice. That frustration you see, that resistance or shutdown, it's often the brain saying, I don't know where to start. I don't know what to do. I don't know how to do it, or I don't know what to do next. What executive function actually is. Executive functioning lives in the prefrontal cortex, the part of the brain responsible for planning, sequencing, organizing, initiating tasks, regulating emotions, and following through. This part of the brain develops slowly, is energy intensive, shuts down quickly under stress. So when we say, you know how to do this, we may be unintentionally handing our child a pile of parts without any pictures. This is that time where you pull out the instructions you had written out previously for them. For young children, print out pictures of how to do this specific task or chore. Gently say, look at each of the pictures, and the pictures will show you. Okay, are you on board yet? If not, I have another example for you. How about you receive a recipe with any directions? Imagine ordering one of those meal delivery kits. All of the ingredients are there. Everything looks great, but there are no directions, no picture of what the meal is supposed to look like. And you've never made this recipe before. Could frustration rear its ugly head? Now imagine the same meal with a recipe. Clear steps, clear timing, and visual cues. Not only would it be easier to make, there's a possibility that it's going to taste amazing. Children are often handed the ingredients of a task without the recipe and then corrected when the outcome isn't right. We've all been here with this one, either the one that is explaining where an item is or the one that is looking for the item. The other person is explaining to us. It should be there. The kitchen moment. Think about running back into the kitchen to grab ketchup. You open drawers. At some point, frustration builds. That reaction isn't immaturity. It's uncertainty plus time pressure. Imagine this. You've just gotten off of work. You're already running late. You're trying to get to your child's soccer, football, lacrosse, swim, basketball game. You think you remember the field. Was it the west side or was it on the east side? The upper level or lower level? You pull into the parking lot and it's chaos. Cars everywhere. Whistles blowing. 10 teams playing. Several teams are wearing the same colors. You're scanning faces, jerseys, ponytails, helmets. You call your spouse. No answer. You walk faster, check one field, then another. Your chest tightens. Then you look at your watch. The game is almost over. Or is it just starting? Nothing about you changed in those 5 minutes. What changed was clarity. That rising frustration is exactly what happens in a child's nervous system when structure is missing. Why chores build your child's brain? Chores serve many purposes. Yes, they teach contribution to the family community, which is so important. Everyone in the family community needs to help out in one way or another. But more importantly, they build executive functioning. Every chore practices task initiation, sequencing, working memory, sustained attention, follow through. Every time you encourage your child to do something they can do for themselves, you're giving their brain another rung on the ladder, building confidence, independence, and capability. What they learn in their own family system, they can easily take out into the world. Now remember, structure is their instruction manual. Structure is the picture on the box, the recipe, the labeled drawer, the predictable system. Without structure, the brain fills the gap with anxiety, added pressure, and can lead to a full-blown meltdown. With structure, the nervous system stays regulated long enough to learn and to think things through. Behavior improves not because the child changed, but because the brain finally knows what to do. Something else that I need to point out to you: repetition builds mastery. The foundation for this skill was laid when I was only 15 years old. My father took me out in his 1980 VW Rabbit, navigating the quiet back roads of our town. It was the perfect training ground. The roads were dotted with stop signs, forcing me to downshift, find the friction point, and prepare to stop, over and over again. My brain, through that relentless repetition, was building a permanent map. When my son was 13, we traveled to South Africa to visit family. For an American driver, the transition is jarring. Everything is mirrored. Suddenly, I wasn't in the traditional driver's seat on the left. I was on the right. I was shifting gears with my left hand instead of my right, navigating a manual VW Rabbit through streets where traffic flowed on the wrong side of the road. My son sat in the passenger seat, watching me with a look of pure confusion. Finally, he asked, "How do you know how to do this? Have you ever done this before?" I laughed and told him, "Well, not on this side of the car, but I certainly have on the other." I explained to him that I started learning when I was only 15. My history with a gear shift was long and varied. It started with an IROC Z28 5-speed, followed by a Honda CRX, then a Honda Prelude, a convertible VW Rabbit, and finally a convertible Mustang. Every single one of them was a stick shift. I told him that even though his father and I eventually switched to automatics, and I hadn't touched a manual transmission in many years, the scaffolding was already there. My brain didn't need to learn a new skill. It just needed to retrieve one. Through thousands of hours of repetition in my youth, I had developed muscle memory. The neural pathways were so deeply engraved that my hands and feet knew exactly what to do before my conscious mind even had to think about it. The environment had changed, but the foundation was permanent. Children learn by doing. Each successful completion strengthens neural pathways through neuroplasticity. Independence doesn't come from being pushed. Although, let's be honest, being pushed is very helpful and does sometimes serve a purpose. It comes from being supported until the brain can do it on its own. That's how we move from meltdowns to mastery. This episode is for educational purposes only and to provide support. It's not a substitute for professional mental health evaluation, diagnosis, or treatment. The more we learn to recognize the signs behind the behaviors, the more compassion and support we can offer to our kids, our partners, and ourselves. Thank you for spending this time with me. If this episode was helpful, I'd love it if you shared it with a fellow parent, caregiver, or educator who might need it too. You can also subscribe to stay up to date on future episodes and check out additional tools and resources at thepathtopeacetherapy.com. Follow me on Instagram at thepathtopeacetherapy. If you are in California, I offer virtual sessions if you are not in the Hermosa Beach and South Bay area. You can book online at The Path to Peace Therapy or send me an email at stephanieb@thepathtopeacetherapy.com. And as always, take a deep breath, give yourself some grace, and remember, peace is possible, and you don't have to do this alone.